My question to you is, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing Great Britain over the next 5 years? Thank you.
Next 5 years, Lord Sugar, how do we cope?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I mean, I really do believe, first of all, we've got to get out of this pandemic. We don't know, the government doesn't know, the scientists don't know, no one knows when we're going to see the end of this pandemic, because this actually has put us on our knees, not just us, but everyone else. And it's funny that we've kind of like the Brexit thing has seemed to have powered into insignificance in the background, because if it wasn't for the pandemic, I'm telling you, you would see real problems for the UK with the implications of us leaving the European Union. And I can tell you that some of my businesses are suffering, in fact, have given up trying to supply goods to the continent because of complications of double duties and things like that. It's a total, absolute mess. But I think it's, as I say, it's powered into insignificance. So,
And when it comes to the pandemic,
I think we've got a rocky road ahead in the next 5 years.
Well, yeah, and when it comes to the pandemic, you've obviously spent time in Australia and Florida recently, two countries diametrically opposed in terms of how to deal with this thing. So where do you stand? Do we need to unlock or do we need to lock down harder?
Well, I left England in September 2020 to Australia to find a very stringent government regime there on isolation. But when I came out of the isolation after 14 days, it seemed to me that they'd cracked it and things were like normal, to be perfectly frank with you. I suppose they have a population lower than ours, but I do believe they dealt with it in a much better way. To be fair to our UK government, we are a very cultural hub for people to fly in from all over the world, whereas Australia is perhaps not as much.
And you think some of the criticism of Boris Johnson over the course of this pandemic has been unfair?
Yeah, I do. But I mean, let's put it this way: he's there as the whipping boy. I mean, when you're depressed, when you're down, when things are going wrong, you go have someone to blame, And if if it's not the the care homes, you sort that out. If it's not PPE, and you sort that out. If it's not masks, and you sort that out. And if not enough vaccinations, and you sort that out. There's always got to be something to give him a bit of stick. Now, the point is, I'm not one of his great fans, but what I will say is that if I was faced in his position as a sensible human being going back over a year, what I would do is to be perfectly honest and tell the public, and I know they wouldn't want to hear this, and say to them, do you know what? I have no idea. I have no clue when this thing is coming to an end. I'm relying upon scientists and specialists in the field to advise me. And I'm no doctor, I'm no specialist, and the thing is changing every day, and I have no idea. The problem is, with an open and honest attitude of saying you have no idea, I mean, you can imagine they'd be on a hiding there.
Well, indeed, although Harry Hayfield from Wales has emailed in, Lord Sugar, to say, of those in elected office at the moment, so I guess you can choose anywhere in the world, which government or opposition members would you personally say you're fired and you're hired to, and why?
To be honest with you, in the last 9 months, I've lost track of the comings and goings of the various ministers, to be honest with you. I couldn't care less about them at all. Some of them are there to promote themselves. Some of them are quite intelligent. Some of them I sympathise with. I sympathise with the Prime Minister because we don't know what's happening with this pandemic. So I'd rather like to reserve my answer to that.
Okay, no, fair enough. Well, look,
I think we've had a very difficult time.
yeah, let's move on to this question from Sean James Cameron.
My question for Lord Sugar is, what does he think the high street will look like in a few years? Will people continue to buy online, or will things go back to normal on the high street?
Good question, because our high streets have been decimated. It was already tough enough, and then the government shut them all down.
Well, yes, you're quite right. Before the pandemic, the high streets were closing down. I can blame one entity of this, and it begins with Amazon. They are murdering everybody. They are murdering all small businesses, and consumers, as you know, can get stuff the next day. So it's a different form of purchasing. The touchy-feely going out shopping and seeing things is something of the past. The high street now is fragmented into now bars, hairdressers, massagers, coffee shops. And I think that's how it's going to fragment into that. Going into a shop to buy a TV or to buy a radio or to buy, I don't know, maybe some batteries or a bit of hardware will be possible. But High Street is closing down, and I think there's going to be a lot of different types of services that you're going to find there. Things like beauty salons and now bars and coffee shops and, well, maybe COVID centres where you can have tests or injections or things like that.
How grim. That's not why I want to go to the high street. Look, big day in football, of course. So John Drew sent us this question.
Lord Sugar, would you still like to own Spurs?
Do you want Spurs?
No.
Why?
No. You're on a hiding to nothing. It's a worse job than being the Prime Minister, to be honest with you. You can't do anything right. So I take my hat off to Daniel Levy, because what he does is completely different to what I did. He keeps his mouth shut, doesn't talk, doesn't answer anybody, doesn't speak to anybody. Me, I couldn't resist it. So, I used to get a lot of stick from your ex-employer, the Sun, and I made a few enemies there, as you may recall.
Did you watch the game today, Lord Sugar? And what did you think of the boos as the England players took the knee before the game?
I just think it's ridiculous. Look, if the players want to take the knee and they want to make the statement, let them do it.
Have you taken the knee?
Pardon?
Have you taken the knee?
Well, where would I take the knee? In Sainsbury's?
Well, Keir Starmer seemed to just do it in an office.
Bloody question. Honestly, I don't play football. Why would I take the knee?
Well, people were doing it everywhere. Keir Starmer just did it in an office. I mean, personally, do you believe in it?
Well, he's a nutter. So, I mean, what don't compare me to him. What a bloody stupid question. Do I take the knee? No.
Well, I'll take that as a no.
I've had a new knee. I've had a big operation on my knee, and it bloody hurts.